Hey folks, Quilly18 here, and welcome to another episode in our base building game series in Unity here, codenamed Project Porcupine. Over the last two episodes, we added some basics towards our O2 generator, our oxygen generator. We implemented the internal mechanics of a object that was not 1x1, that is in fact 2x2, but really at this point it supports basically any sized object. We also have a preview finally coming in here, including a preview that turns red if you put it somewhere that you can't put it, and also disabling sort of like the dragging behavior on that. We still have the little funny targeting circle, which we could easily disable and probably will at some point, but we could ignore that for now. The only thing we don't have in the user interface side is a way to cancel it. If I hold down left click and I change my mind, really the only way to sort of cancel this build is if I move it somewhere that is not allowed, that is invalid, and then it won't build it. Because otherwise, once it's going, it's done. Had a couple of good suggestions for how to handle it. I am a big fan and agree with Kareth of if you're holding down the left mouse button, just clicking the right mouse button should probably end that sort of building kind of mode, so that then you could release the left mouse button. That's very common in a lot of games. Is that or escape? In fact, maybe we could do both. The other thing is that I forgot I left in a little bit of a bug here. Once we've got the O2 generator, in fact, any piece of furniture selected that has a preview, if we click on the bulldoze button at that point, for example, our preview stays there because we never actually disable the preview. We do correctly change it if we change to another building type, but this is the preview or the stockpile, which is pretty subtle. The wall, the door, it does correctly change the preview, but we don't actually turn it off if we switch to something that doesn't have a preview mode. So we'll go ahead and make a couple of those changes. What I do want to do is start making the oxygen generators actually do something, but let's finish cleaning up the user interface first. I think that's going to be a good idea. So we're going to open up mouse controller first, as well as the build mode controller here. Again, I forgot to open mono develop first. Sorry, gonna have to fill 10 seconds of airtime. And there we go. All right. So let's embiggen that. That's the mouse controller. So I think we also need the build mode controller. I actually might be wrong about that. What's responsible for the preview? It's actually just the build mode controller that's responsible for the preview showing up. So that's cool. We can check that. So right now what we do is we, in our update, we check to see if we're in a build mode where we are supposed to have the tile show up. So then we call show furniture at sprite, which is responsible for activating our furniture preview. But what we need to do here is if we're not in a mode where we're building furniture, then what we should do is hide the preview object. Done and done. That is a very simple fix. What is slightly less simple, though, is canceling out of the build mode. So the preview is handled entirely here. The build mode is handled, or detecting whether we want to build something or not is in the mouse controller. This is responsible for figuring out our sort of mouse clicks and dragging and everything like that. And really, it's the mouse drag and, what did I call this function? Start, update dragging, preview, cleanup, and drag. Right over here. This is where when the mouse button is released, we build. I think we need a little bit more sophistication here, because when we release the mouse button going up, we might actually want to drop out of the build mode. Now we do have, what do we have? We don't have anything that we really set for dragging. Because the idea is this, somewhere between the mouse button going down, which starts the drag. We must check that somewhere. Don't we? Find, there we are. Get mouse button down. Update dragging, starts the drag up here. So we start the drag, we set the drag position, and that's it. We never, at any point, do we track whether any dragging is happening, though. No, it's just sort of always implied. While the button is being held down, we display the drag preview area, and when we release the button, we do that. So I think what we actually need, we need to set some sort of Boolean that says something like is dragging, which can default to false. And what we're going to do is we're going to set it to true when the drag starts. We're going to set it to false when the drag gets released. That's not the release one, sorry. And then our if mount button down, like this is always returning true while the mouse button is being pushed down. But we're also going to put another check. Well, I suppose rather than checking to see if it's down, I can just say if is dragging. Done. So finally, ending drag is what happens when the mouse button is released, but only if is dragging is true. If is dragging and we've released the button, then we're going to end the drag. So all we need now is some way to set is dragging to be equal to false. So that's what I'm going to do. Say right up here. If input dot get mouse button up 1. So the right mouse button was released. Actually, I'll capitalize this. The right mouse button was released, so we are canceling any dragging build mode. So we're just going to set if dragging to be equal to false at this point. So let's see how that works for us. Might have missed something, but let's see. So we'll go and open up the pathfinding test. So I'm now going to grab the O2 generator. So first, I can click, I can drag around, I can release. That all works fine. It is correctly not dragging right now. Now I'm going to click, so it's dragging around, and I'm going to right-click, which has canceled that. Now only when I release, oh yeah, both buttons actually together act as a scroll. And then I release it, cancels drag, and correctly does not build anything, which I think is fine. I mean, you can swap it to do like on mouse up. You could add in a thing. Or input dot get key up key code dot escape, because some people might try to cancel with escape as well. So if we go and hit play and pathfinding test and O2 generator, so I'm in build mode. You can see the little preview icon. I hit escape. There we are. I'm no longer doing the build, and I can release the left mouse button without building anything at all. There. Easy fix. We might tune it even more later on. Still don't know, like, what we are going to do. So I like when you've got the wall, right, and you click and drag. We've got that. I guess we probably get rid of these circles completely. Instead, we have our little build preview, which is right now part of the build mode controller. I guess we're going to have to change that and actually be part of the mouse controller instead, because what we really want here is instead of a series of dots, we want a series of walls, don't we? Basically to look like that. Yeah, we really do want that. That's, yeah, so all this work I went to put into the build mode controller really has to get moved over to the mouse controller. And really has to replace the, update dragging, drag preview objects is where we create them. Yeah, I guess the only difference is, instead of spawning a circle cursor prefab, we are going to be spawning transparent versions of the sprite. Okay, well, this is what the rest of this episode is going to be. I'd forgotten about this, because I was quite happy with how everything was turning out. I was happy with how everything was turning out here with this, until I realized that this is not what I want. But that's okay. Most of what we can do is actually copy and paste, like, or not copy and paste, just cut some things, move it. So the build mode controller is not going to handle doing the furniture preview at all, which means it doesn't need the furniture sprite controller either. I think that it literally needs nothing in here, because I don't think it needs the mouse controller either. I think we're basically going back to the form of before. And I'm just going to cut... We don't need the furniture preview because we actually have a whole array set up for that. We don't need to copy mouse controller, but we are still going to do the furniture sprite controller thing. So the mouse code here is going to get the furniture sprite controller, which it's going to keep track of. Because it needs to ask it what the correct sprite for a piece of furniture is. So we do need a reference to that. And then otherwise in the update, so this can go away. The show furniture sprite at tile is going to change, but we're mostly cutting it and moving it into our mouse code over here. And this is mostly here going to get called from is dragging. Rather than create objects here, what I'm going to do is call something like this, show furniture at sprite. It's going to need the build mode controller dot, oh, is the object not public? Let's just make this public. That's going to be fine. So, okay, here's what we can do. If build mode controller dot build mode is object, then we'll do one way, else show the generic dragging visuals. And then over here, what we're doing is we're calling the function we had before. So this is just the circle cursor prefab, but here we want a slightly more sophisticated one, and it needs the strings, so build mode controller dot object type, and then it needs a tile, which is t. So it's saying show furniture sprite at tile. Now this function here is currently a no-go because of some references. I'm just going to comment this out for a second and make sure that we don't have any syntax errors, and we're going to run this. We won't get our previews anymore. We won't even get circle previews. What we should for the floor, because that's not build mode, is furniture. But if I go with wall, we get no drag preview, nothing here. But if I release, it still builds the walls. Excellent. That's exactly what we're looking for. Good. So, what do we do? Well, in here, we've got this array, this drag preview game objects that is in here. And presumably this also gets cleaned up. Yeah, on update dragging, we clear all the references to the previous objects. So yeah, all we need to do is spawn a whole bunch of them. So we don't need to set anything active. We just need to instantiate. So basically, just like over here, what we're doing is we're creating a new game object, but instead of the circle cursor prefab, we are going to be grabbing our furniture sprite controller dot, we've got a reference to it somewhere. This thing here, get furniture, get sprite for furniture. Are we? Maybe we don't use the pool for this. I mean, I guess we still could if we were referencing as prefab, but we're not referencing a prefab. Position. Okay, so what we're really doing here is we're saying new game object. Creating a new game object, we're setting the parent to this, the mouse controller, just so it's nicely organized in our structure. That's not particularly required. And we're also putting a reference to it in drag preview objects so it can be cleaned up afterwards. Good, good. Then we have to add a component to it of type sprite renderer. We assign the correct sprite to it. We give it a color if it's in a valid place. We grab a reference to the prototype because this is going to tell us the width of the furniture. And our game objects transformed.position gets set correctly based on this tile. Okay, let's see what happens with that. I don't know exactly how quick it's going to be. We're going to find that out together. I was not expecting to do this. So, I mean, the floor should work exactly like before. And it do. O2 generator. We're not getting a preview for it. Oh, right, because it works differently. Of course it does. On a few different ways. Because it's not attached to the mouse. It's once I click and drag. Right, no, of course it wasn't spawned from pool. That makes sense. Because we're calling despawn. And that's okay. I can probably just comment this out. That's all right. So we're allowed to call despawn on something we didn't actually spawn from the pool. But the question is, why isn't anything showing up in the first place? Play pathfinding test controller. I'm probably just missing something basic, but there's our mouse controller. So if I say build wall and I click and hold, you are creating objects. But you're not actually giving me a chance to expand. There we go. Is there a key to pause in Unity? Because the problem is as soon as I release the mouse... Nothing? That's kind of annoying. There's got to be something. How do you pause in Unity? Play, pause. Control-Shift-P. Okay, let me try this again. Pathfinding test. Wall, click and drag. Control-Shift, I can't reach. Control-Shift-P. No, you didn't pause, damn you. Watch, it turns out I have to be using the left-hand side Control and Shift. No, I can't pause at all. Can I... Okay, that's interesting. I was able to click with the middle mouse button on the pause button. There we go. So, we have these objects. They've got sprites. Oh, they're in the wrong layer. That's what's going on. Right, which we were setting before with some other things. So we want to say geo dot, with the sprite renderer. That's where we need to do it. Sprite renderer dot sorting layer name is equal to jobs. Pathfinding test. Wall. Okay, so we're getting that preview properly. It does generate pretty quickly. And if you're making a really big area, it is generating a lot of game objects every frame. But it's actually turning out to be surprisingly quick. We can probably still do an optimization pass to make that run like faster and use our pool properly. But this is technically working. Okay, so now the downside is it doesn't give us a preview when we are just mousing around. It's only once we click that it shows us the preview. So what we need then is, even if we're not dragging, we kind of want a preview, don't we? Yeah, that's the whole point of this exercise, is even before we click and drag, we want to get our preview right away. So, what if we literally just comment this out? Because I think the mouse position and all those things still get updated every frame. We only return right away if we're over a UI game object. But otherwise, yeah, every single frame, we update the start and end position. So presumably, or I'm wrong. Oh, the start drag doesn't get updated unless we're actually dragging. And then it's stuck there. Okay, that's fine, that's fine. Yeah, so... All right, if we just push down the left mouse button, we want to store the drag position. And then, assuming that we are dragging, we don't want to keep updating the start position. But if we are not dragging, if we didn't just release or just push down the mouse button, but is dragging is equal to false, then what we want to do is we want to keep updating the start position to the current frame position, because that will mean that I am wrong. Oops. God damn it. It's probably giving us a compile error and everything and I didn't see it. Because that would not have been allowed with a single equal sign. There we go. That looks better. So now we have our little cursor attached to the mouse. Because we're by default, we are in floor building mode. And probably we don't want that to be the case. We'll want to put in some extra things. If I go into O2 generator, it is stuck to the mouse, which is great. Click, it gets built there properly. Click and drag. It doesn't actually drag out a series of them because it's not allowed. with wall, we see the little wall preview. Click and drag. We do see the drag preview because that is allowed. The walls don't get built because we don't have any metal on the ground right now. We would have some if we say pathfinding test, save, then actually just reload this. Right now the load generates some stuff for us. And we can do that, and it will actually get built. Beautiful. Okay. That's certainly better. We still need, obviously, the build menu in general needs to be sort of improved and tweaked in some way. I would like it to automatically generate based on furniture, especially as we keep adding more furniture. That would be awfully nice. And obviously, we're going to need some sort of like cursor mode where you're not building, because like right now there's no way to do that. There's this bulldoze button. It still gives you this little thing. It does remove floors. It doesn't remove furniture, which is okay. We are aware of that. But still, it still has like a little sort of cursor mode, right? We want some sort of mode where you're just a selection mode so that I can click on something without building it or destroying something, you know, just the ability to select something. So there needs to be another mode over there, but that we can take care of very, very easily. In fact, that'll be something that happens in the mouse controller mode over here, right? The idea that we are not in any sort of build mode. I guess we could have something like, we haven't done this yet, but we could have an enum here for like mouse mode with values of select and build. Right, this is the mouse controller. There's a build mode controller, but we don't always have to be in build mode. So current mode equals dot select, for example. And that's actually one of the other things we could bind escape to. So rather than have escape sort of cancel out of is drag mode, although that's not incorrect, in update, we could do something like if input.get key up key code dot escape. So if current mode dot or is equal to mouse mode dot build, there we go. Then we set current mode to be equal to mouse mode dot select. But then we can do something like else if current mode is equal to, if we're already in select mode, then debug.log show game menu. So you hit escape, it cancels build mode. You hit escape again, it brings up a menu. And then we just say, we probably don't care about dragging unless we're in build mode, right? So if build mode, if our current mode is build mode, then we do update dragging. Or we could have the check in here and then bail out early, but we'll do that. So now we still start in build mode because that is the default, or so I thought. Oh, no, we don't. Right, so now nothing's happening. I click, nothing. Oh, then we still can't go into it. So what we need is the button over here. Yeah, so the buttons, when we hit this, what we're doing is we're calling build mode controller, and we're saying set mode, build floor, build furniture, whatever. So maybe it's fine for us to just have a little function on the mouse, a public function, when it says start build mode. And all we set is our current mode is equal to mouse mode.build, just internally. And then we just say, listen, when the build mode controller, when we call like set build mode or whatever, you should call the mouse controller, which we don't currently have a reference to. We can probably do, yeah, this is fine. Game object dot find object of type mouse controller. We don't do this every frame, so the fact that this isn't the fastest operation in the universe isn't a huge deal. And we just call start build mode over there, and there, and there. And so now we hit play. Actually, we'll load this one with the metal, because why not? And so still nothing's happening when we click. We hit build wall, and we are now in build mode, so we get the preview. We can drag that out. That works. I'm still building walls. If I hit escape... Oh, we're not cleaning that up. Right, of course. Yeah, okay, I'll have to fix that. But now we're back to not building anything. And then build wall, and that does get cleaned up. So the reason that hitting escape did not properly get rid of those preview things is because we only clear up the old drag previews here. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this. I'm going to go here. Probably after that, we might decide to change things a bit. And yeah, we will always update dragging up there. And instead, we'll put in a little thing. If we're not in build mode, then we'll return. So we always make sure we clean up any drag objects that are left over. But then after that, we will just return. So let's load up this. Let's grab the wall. I hit escape. And indeed, we are not in build mode, but the previews got cleaned up anyway, which is great. Build wall again. Everything is fine. Do that. I'm going to hit escape. Then I'm going to hit escape again. There you go. And you see the show game menu, like debug log that we have in there? Because that's probably what we want to do at this point. We're not necessarily in build mode. We don't have a tool selected. So at this point, if the user is hitting escape, they probably want some sort of game menu to come up. And we'll do that at some point in the future. But there we go. Okay. Wow, our UI is looking, certainly, a lot better. I like it. Cool. Okay. So next episode, I think I'm done all the UI stuff I was thinking about. So next episode, most likely, I will work on getting these oxygen generators to, generate oxygen. See you next time, folks. Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone who pledged on Patreon in April and who are supporting these videos from May through to early June. And to these Mic Check level supporters, we've got Wes Oldenboiving, Craig Mortel, Neil Balaki Milner, Speedy Savant, Valiant Cake Fiend, Aaron Toivson, Marius Field Vold, Jan Torrevel, Julian Auger Lafont, Steven Stager, Michael McClintock, Kale the Quick, Drazion, Bite Rash, Adjective, Jason Yanti, and to absolutely everyone who watches and shares and favorites and subscribes to these videos. Appreciate you all. Thank you very so much, and I'll see you next time.